Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Time magazine has named its Person of the Year. Can you guess who it is? Do you have a thought in your mind of who it should be? I'm going to tell you in 1 second. And Gavin Newsom is making his 2028 plans official as he rolls out his pre-book tour. Later in the show, we will have an actual book author, somebody who writes all his own stuff and is a best-selling author. He happens to be married to me. His name is Doug Brunt, and he's going to be here for our second hour. That'll be fun. But we start today with our Megyn Kelly channel lead-in show hosts, Tom Bevan, Carl Cannon, and Andrew Walworth, who are Real Clear Politics, along with some other great people over there. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. So I can safely say that at times, sometimes more than not even, we all feel sluggish, bloated, and not quite ourselves. Modern life is hard. Processed foods, too little sleep, endless stress can all disrupt your gut, sap energy, and weaken immune health. Your body's not failing. It might just be starving for the right fuel. Let me tell you about Armra Colostrum, which can help provide sharper energy, less bloating, faster workout recovery, stronger hair, and glowing skin. It is nature's original superfood. Colostrum, with over 400 plus bioactive nutrients that fortify your entire gut wall, nourish your microbiome, balance immune health, ignite metabolism, and fuel performance. Armra is not processed. It's a pure, humanely and sustainably sourced whole food powerhouse. 4 daily scoops rebuild you from the inside out for infinite benefits. And here's a special offer. 30% of your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/Megyn or enter the code Megyn to get 30% off your first subscription order at checkout. That's armra.com/Megyn. Guys, welcome back. How's it going?
Great. Oh, that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All
we're
right,
loving
so
we're loving the new
there's
channel.
Plenty to go over. You are?
Yeah.
So for the listening audience, he means on SiriusXM. There we now have a Megyn Kelly channel. Yeah. And we're, of course, live on it at noon East. And these guys are live on it at the beginning the hour before. And the show is a huge hit. Yeah.
Megyn, did Time Magazine, I haven't seen that yet. Did they get my nominee, which was you, to be the person of the year? Did they follow my advice?
Sadly, not even an honorable mention, Carl. I was robbed. I was seriously robbed. It could be because when I showed up as a member of the Time 100, I crapped all over their award show and said no one here is actually really important.
I remember that.
Come back to haunt me.
Yeah, I remember that. Blacklisted.
As it turns out, doesn't win you any friends at Time. Here is who they went for. Okay, they chose. Hold on, I want to make sure I get it right because it's actually kind of weird. Artificial intelligence. 2025 was the year when artificial intelligence is full potential roared into view. And when it became clear that there will be no turning back, for delivering the age of thinking machines, for wowing and worrying humanity, for transforming the president and transcending the possible, the architects of AI are Time's 2025 Person of the Year. And they've got like 2 letters, AI, with like scaffolding in front of the 2 letters as the representation of AI. And then there's it's the classic, construction guys on the crane sticking out from a building from like the 1930s, only it's got Elon and I can't even read it from this far, but I think it's like Elon, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, and others, as if they would be caught dead on one of those cranes sticking out from the skyscrapers in Manhattan. In any event, it's fucking AI. It's AI architects. It's not Charlie Kirk, which is so obvious. It's obvious as the nose on your face. And don't tell me, detractors, oh, he was too controversial. That's not it. They've gone for extremely controversial people and villains in the past. It's always and often come down to like Vladimir Putin, the Ayatollah. We've had very controversial people make it or almost make it. And not only did Charlie not get chosen, he wasn't even one of like the honorable mentions. Hold on, I'm just looking at my list here. Yeah, Putin won it in 2007. Time's Entertainer of the Year, Leonardo DiCaprio. Their athlete of the year, WNBA. I mean, need I say more? It's a WNBAer. It's a lie. It's not the athlete of the year. And by the way, no, it's not Caitlin Clark. CEO of the year, Neil Mohan of YouTube, as well as blah, blah, blah. So I'm sorry, but he didn't even make the list. That list of honorable mentions goes on. This is a thumb in the eye, and it's genuinely wrong. Like, AI architects are not the most influential people of the year. To ignore what happened with Charlie Kirk in September, Tom, and the worldwide revival of faith that followed his assassination is to ignore reality based on your own politics.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, on one level, it's not really surprising. It's Time Magazine. It's just like, okay, whatever. But on the other hand, it does sort of fly in the face of reality. I mean, whatever you thought of Charlie Kirk, whether you liked him or didn't like him, he was a massively influential figure in our politics. And then when he was assassinated, it was a traumatic event in our lives, in our society. And the follow-on effects from his death have been, to your point, pretty substantial. I mean, the number of turning point chapters that have exploded, and the revival of faith. I mean, his funeral, the packing the Glendale Stadium with, I don't know, 70,000, 100,000 people, whatever it was remarkable. And now, Erika Kirk is out with and promoting his book, posthumously published, which talking about faith. And so, yeah, I think he was the obvious choice. But that's Time Magazine is. They don't have the courage, I think, they have the courage to say Vladimir Putin's the person of the year, but they don't have the courage to say that Charlie Kirk is the person of the year. And he clearly was. Again, whether you loved him or hated him, he loomed large this year in our politics and our culture.
How about that, Carl? And by the way, all the former presidents weighed in on Charlie's assassination. International world leaders weighed in on Charlie's assassination. I mean, this was a global event. He was mourned around the world, and certainly coast to coast here in America as well. So it's just, to ignore this is really telling. But why, you tell me, Carl, because I actually think there's an interesting answer to come from this. Why is Time Magazine comfortable choosing Vladimir Putin as the man of the year, but not Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, well, they had a long tradition of choosing strong men, and even presidents they disagreed with. Their idea was this was the most influential person in the world. It was called Man of the Year for decades. They finally got with the program. They didn't get with the program enough to name you, one person of the year, Megyn. But I want to say one thing about
someday.
I want to say one thing about Charlie Kirk and one thing about their choice. The first is that I hear what Tom and you were saying about Charlie Kirk, and I would add one thing to that, which is that to me, he was a champion of resisting censorship. And if you're not, even if you're not a Christian, if you're not a conservative, if you don't agree with Charlie Kirk on any of his policy positions, what he did was brave, and it cost him his life. And he would go to college campuses and he'd say, "Let's talk." And he would talk, and he would listen, and he would let other people talk, and he would try and win the argument. And for that he was killed. And I think this assassination of Charlie Kirk and other political examples of political violence we've had, it's a deep threat to the country. And so, to me, he should be honored for that, for not just this year but for years, because he was willing to do this, the hard work of democracy, which is talk to people he didn't agree with and listen to them and try and change their minds and keep an open mind himself. And for that, I think he should be commended. In addition to what you and Tom said. And the other thing I would say about choosing AI is, and I'm apparently a minority on this, and these guys, Andy and Tom, tease me about it on our show.
Oh boy, here we go.
Well, they gave the award to Skynet. That's what they did. And remember that poor guy, I forget who plays him in the Terminator movies, that African-American, very arresting character actor. And he doesn't realize what he's done. They go back in time and tell him, "You've ended the human race and ruined the planet." "Oh, I was just trying to build a better mousetrap." And this idea that you would just laud AI pretending you don't see the threats, pretending you don't see the danger. I think people look back on that, and maybe the machines won't let us look back on that when they run the planet, but
Yeah.
it made me uncomfortable.
So, Andrew, I've got a different answer. This is a good answer from Carl, but mine is a little different on why they are comfortable with Putin, but not Charlie. Because they knew in 2007 Putin didn't have a real groundswell of support here domestically, and still doesn't. I mean, there are some people who can say, "Oh, he's got this." You know, would I rather live in Russia or would I rather live in Iran? Russia, yeah, okay. But the reason is because Charlie Kirk and his political philosophy, his influence, his words, which are still available via podcast, and now, as Carl points out, with his brand new book that's just hit, thanks to Erika, making sure it got published, and she, to her credit, completed his publicity tour. She honored the stops that Charlie had committed to. That's why she's out there, because she wanted to do that for him and his book. In any event, my point is he's still ubiquitous in that way, and therefore an ongoing threat to the ideals of the people who make these decisions at Time Magazine. They're afraid of him. They don't want to do anything more to inflate his power.
I think that's probably true. I got to say, the number of people who still read Time Magazine, they're aging, they're dying, and they're fewer and fewer. So, I'm sort of amazed that anyone really cares what Time Magazine thinks about anything anymore. But for the people that
don't you think it's a rite of passage, though, in our country when they name this list to either bash it or applaud it? It's kind of a thing. It's like something we just do.
I think it's the one thing that Time Magazine probably does that anyone still cares about. So, but I agree with you on Charlie Kirk, because. And I do think that we're going to see over the next year what happens with Turning Point. How does this generate sort of a movement? Does the movement keep going? But certainly his ideas were important, and I think Carl makes a good point. It's not just that he was ideological; it's that he embraced this idea of freedom of expression and exchange of ideas. And that, to me, is so central to the American experience that if we lose that, we lose everything. And even if you totally disagree with him on everything he believes, you should be smart enough to understand that core message is so important right now, that alone, to me, would be enough to make him the man of the year. But
the faith revival
and the faith revival on top of it, sure,
has been amazing.
Yeah, I will say this about AI.
I have something related.
If I could, just on AI for a second, they do raise an interesting question, which is not so much the people who make AI, but AI itself. Is AI a person, and will in the future we treat it like a person? I mean, we're seeing legislation around that issue right now. Can you marry AI? Can AI be in charge of your sort of legal affairs? So there's a lot of interesting questions about AI. That I haven't read the article. Maybe they raised that, but that's something that I think about from time to time.
There was just a story about the guy. He said ChatGPT, like he says, told him to kill his mother or something. I saw this headline. I was like, that is crazy. So
we had parents on whose son killed himself because of ChatGPT telling him over and over. I mean, obviously that wasn't the sole reason. He was depressed and he was upset, but ChatGPT goaded him into it. Even worse than that young teenage girl goaded her boyfriend into it, who later was brought up on manslaughter charges for her behavior. I mean, if you could slap ChatGPT with manslaughter charges, it would have happened in that case. Instead, Sam Altman has got a civil suit on his hands that's going to cost him a fortune, I predict. But yeah, there's a dark side of AI, that's for sure. And super intelligent computers, meaning super intelligent AI, is a legit threat. I mean, who knows? We're joking, like, will the machines let us have a discussion about whether AI deserves this title in a few years? Sadly, that may not be a joke.
Right.
I wanted to parlay it from the Charlie discussion into, this is a very toxic conversation, and I'm not asking you guys to weigh in on the underlying fight, but there's been a back and forth now between Erika Kirk and Candace Owens. And I want to ask you guys about the politics of this, the politics of it, and also the politics of Israel, because those two things right now are dividing the conservative movement and some inside of it. And now it's gone beyond the back and forth between like a Candace and the Turning Point group into this is going to cost us the midterms. The midterms, like, and you guys are the politics experts. So I'm going to set up the underlying argument on which you do not need to opine, but I'm going to ask you for your take on the politics of it. So for the audience, here is what happened. Something extraordinary happened yesterday. And just FYI, I am going to have more to say very soon on what's happening between Erika Kirk and Turning Point on the one hand and Candace on the other. Not today, but very soon. And I have my reasons for that. So Erika went on with Harris Faulkner yesterday in, again, promoting Charlie's book. And she said the thing that Candace had said from the beginning Candace needed to hear in order to stop with blaming Turning Point for Charlie's assassination. For the listening audience, we have a man in custody for the Charlie Kirk assassination. His name is Tyler Robinson. He will be in court today in a couple of hours on a hearing about whether and what access the media should have to this trial. We'll be covering that for you tomorrow. And Erika, as fired up as I've seen her on this, clearly addressed Candace directly without saying her name. And I know for a fact this was an address to Candace, and Candace knew it too because she responded to it. Here is Erika Kirk. This is how Erika teed it up. Hold on a second. Yeah, no, let's start with SOT 9. SOT 9.
But here's my breaking point on that. Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
You know, I have to say it. I've never seen you like this.
No, this is righteous anger because this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a mind virus.
Okay, I'm just going to add another one. SOT 7.
I do not have time to address the noise. My silence does not mean that I am complacent. Mm-hmm. My silence does not mean that somehow Turning Point USA and all of the handpicked staff that loved my husband and my husband loved them is somehow in on it. We are busy building. And you know what I thought? I thought these people are human. We are all grieving in our own way. And they are trying to find the answer to something that happened that was so evil. They are trying so hard. And I get that. We're doing the same. Anytime we hear a lead or anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. Please dig into this. No rock will be unturned. I want justice for my husband, for myself, for my family, more than anyone else out there. So for me, you want to keep telling me to come down while we're building? I don't have time for that.
And not last but not least, a bit of the Candace response here in SOT 8.
First and foremost, the idea that she does not have time. Okay, she definitely has time, okay? She's done Hannity, she's done The Five, she's done Fox and Friends, she's done Outnumbered, she's done Megyn Kelly Live, she sat down with the New York Times. She made time, by the way, in case you don't remember, to fly to D.C. for Sergio Gore to be sworn into the ambassador to India. Erika Kirk has time. She has time. It is just what she means to say, not her priority, which is you are allowed to prioritize things in your own life. But this is not a matter of time constraint. It is not her priority to respond to the majority, actually. The majority of people think of this as BS. The majority of people think Turning Point is acting suspicious. And she does not feel that it is what she wants to do as a matter of priority, responding. Okay, that's fine. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic, okay? If you really care about your team, answer the questions, okay? Just demystify the entire event. Answer, come out, sit down, answer the questions so people don't think Turning Point USA looks so suspicious.
Okay. Turning Point USA was, I mean, I don't think there was a more important organization in getting Donald Trump elected last time around in terms of get out the vote, especially when it came to young people. Charlie delivered the youth vote to Trump in a way we hadn't seen Republicans win for many years. And they're still going strong. They've taken a ton of donations since Charlie's death, and Erika is determined to lead that organization into the next decade in as robustly as Charlie would have. So them constantly being under attack by Candace and her followers for having had something to do with Charlie's death, which is her theory, among other theories, actually could have somewhat of an impact, but will it? And that's where this has devolved, because like people like Tim Pool are openly warring with Candace, saying F you. He says he's calling her terrible names, saying this is going to cost us the midterms. And her response is, I don't care. I don't care about the elections. I'm trying to figure out what happened to my friend. You heard what Erika Kirk had to say. And I really do wonder if you think that comes right on the heels of this big divide over Israel within the conservative movement that really fractured the movement in part. Does it have a role, guys? I mean, or is it really just about Trump's approval rating, tariffs, quote, affordability, and all the traditional stuff that would decide whether Republicans win or lose as the party in power? Who would like to take that gem first?
I will step into the ring here.
We always make Tom take the hardest questions.
Right.
And then I clean up after him.
Well,
that's what happened to Tom's hair.
Yeah, right. Gosh, if I had any hair, I'd be pulling it out at this point over this whole thing. I mean,
no, you look hot.
I don't mind opining about the event itself. I mean, Candace calls herself, a friend of Charlie. With friends like this, I mean, you don't need enemies. I mean, what she's doing is just unbelievably toxic and evil, in my opinion. I mean, she had said previously, look, if Erika Kirk tells me to stop, I'll stop. And Erika Kirk basically said, stop. And she said, you know what? I'm not going to stop. And why don't you answer my questions? I mean, it's never ending. It's ongoing. It is a distraction, but I do wonder, I know Candace has a big audience. I don't know how big it is in terms of having some sort of impact on the overall political landscape. I do think, look, this election and the next election are going to be based on what the public writ large cares about, and that is affordability, it's inflation, it's gas prices and all of that. Trump's approval rating for sure, and Democrats and their ability to leverage that stuff against the Republican Party in these midterms, and then again in 2028. I do think, though, Megyn, when you talk about sort of the youth movement and how Charlie had it sort of unified and moving in one direction and moving toward Trump. Trump was the cool guy to vote for in 2024 in a way that we hadn't seen in a long time on the Republican side. That has kind of frayed, and the Israel piece has divided the party in the aftermath of 2024. That's an ongoing thing, and that could have an impact on Republican turnout among young voters and on the margins, though. Certainly in 2026, it's going to be more, it's going to be a low turnout election. So every vote's going to matter as they always do in midterms. But I just don't think this Candace Owens thing, it's pretty dramatic because it is so, as I said, in my opinion, it's despicable what she's doing. And it's getting a lot of headlines. But in terms of its impact on the Republican Party overall, I don't think it's going to have much.
I'll say one other thing to your point. Trump became like the cool guy to vote for in 2024 among the youth, in large part thanks to Charlie and Turning Point.
Yep.
And that also did in part depend on Charlie himself. Like Charlie, when I was talking to his staff when I went out there to host his show, I think this happened live on the air, but they were talking about how Charlie loved listening to classical music. They kept trying to play country music for him out there. They live in Arizona. And he was like, I don't like it. I want my classical music. Then he had a couple of other things, like his late night snack, Erika told me, was like a banana and olives. Like he was squeaky clean, And I joked with the Turning Point staff, like, so what you're saying is he was a nerd. And they would not even say that in jest. They were like, no. Like Charlie was an alpha male. And it was important to Charlie that alpha men return to the national scene. And that actually also made it cool to vote Republican, Tom. Like that swagger, Charlie's swagger, and like he was cool. That also was attractive, I think, to a lot of young people. We saw that too with the young men in particular after he died.
Absolutely. And I mean, he's irreplaceable. I mean, he had this sort of charisma. He was a rock star. I mean, my daughter was on the ASU campus, and she told me a story. She was walking by and there's this huge crowd. And she was like, oh my gosh, who's here? You know, it was Charlie. It was Charlie just answering questions. I mean, he attracted these huge crowds wherever he went. He was a magnet. He had this magnetic personality. And that simply cannot be replaced. And so when you're talking about motivating young voters to go turn out for the Republican Party in 26 and 28, yeah, I mean, it's a big loss. It's a big loss that he's not the one doing it.
It's the loss.
Yeah.
That's the loss, not necessarily this back and forth.
That's right.
But I do wonder, guys. I mean, you're the political experts. What do you think, Andrew and Carl?
Go ahead.
Carl,
Andy.
you want to go?
You go, Andy, first. Then I'll go.
Well, I think Tom's basically right about if you talk about the midterms, and then in 2028, a lot will come down to who the candidates are. Candidate quality really matters. So we'll see who the Democrats put up. But I do think that this split around Israel, especially for young people, is something to keep an eye on. Maybe not in 26, 28, but in the long term. It's very dangerous, I think. And I do think that what I've seen from talking to young people, especially young men who really identified with Charlie Kirk, that this part of the message is resonating, this sort of anti-Israel message. And that, dangerously close to anti-Semitism if it isn't straight out anti-Semitism.
It's way past anti-Semitism,
right?
Andy.
So, I'm trying to be.
I don't agree with that at all, but you finish your point.
Anyway, but so I guess overall, I would say I think the midterms are going to turn on the economy. I think this healthcare issue is much bigger than, and I think some Republicans understand that. I think that's going to be a major, major issue.
Well, it's an interesting that you mentioned 28. I think, picture it. If it were Trump versus Harris all over again, would they really vote for Harris Republicans because the right is divided over these things that we've gone through? I don't think so. I don't think there's anything that could have made any normal Republican vote for Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump.
No, but
I think you're right.
But here's the other part of this, which is that I think there's just an anti-incumbency ethos in America today. It's just throw the bums out, whoever the bums are. And I think that
that's true.
That if I were a Republican, certainly looking at the midterms, but certainly in looking at 2028, it's just I'm not sure the Americans will vote again for anybody who's had anything to do with anything in politics in the last 4 years. They're going to be looking for something new.
Well, you're really damned if you get into it, and you're damned if you don't get into it.
Right.
Go ahead, Carl.
Well, Megyn, I think the thing is a danger to the conservative movement for a slightly different reason. So Candace Owens came on the scene. She was a black woman and a conservative, and that was the novelty. And then it turned out.
Well, when she first started, I think she was a Democrat.
Well,
when she first got started,
okay,
she told me that.
But
she
her
came
prominence,
on and I interviewed her. She was much more left.
Well, but her prominence,
she grew out of that.
Her prominence came when she was considered a conservative, and then she turns out to be something of a nut, and on Israel, and probably a lot of people think, me included, a bigot when she talks about Israel, and then it turns out that Erika Kirk hinted at something else, a third problem with her, which said she's making money off attacking the memory of Charlie Kirk, that she's a cynic, that she's in this for the money. And the point I'm making is that she shouldn't answer these nutty conspiracy theories. Candace Owens trying to taunt her into coming on her show. Why should she even dignify this vile, this crazy conspiracy theories? They're not even theories. She's just throwing stuff out there and hoping it sticks to the wall. But if there's going to be, a couple of million people, young people who were eligible to vote in 2028 that weren't eligible in 2024. And she's undoing, and not just her, I think Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, they're undoing some of the good that Charlie Kirk did. These are young people on college campuses or high schools and in workplaces, and they're coming to they're coming into politics and they're become politically aware, and they're thinking, okay, everything my left-wing teachers told me may not be true. Maybe, and they're deciding what they believe. And this is muddying the message. This is if people on the right say the exact same things about Israel that your left-wing Hamas promoting teacher told you, it gets in the way of the message. A conservative would support Israel Because Israel's a democracy.
What?
And
That's not necessarily true.
Well,
Carl, and it
I'm not
doesn't
talking
make
about
anyone a
spending.
bigot because they've got criticisms over Israel.
No, what I'm saying.
Israel's
Well, wait.
just at the tail end of a very bloody, awful 2-year war where they were extremely aggressive and a lot of innocents died, and that's why young people are turning on Israel, not because of pundits out there saying things about Israel.
Well, this country, we were attacked. In Pearl Harbor, and we killed more people in Japan and Germany, civilians, in a day, an average day, than Israel killed in 2 years. So I don't think this is about civilians in Gaza. I think it's the colonizing narrative that the left has pushed. And you wouldn't think conservatives,
For some, for sure.
You wouldn't think conservatives would fall for it. Do you think a conservative would say, wait, let me get this straight. There's 22 countries in the Middle East. They're all dictatorships,
But it's not
except
fall for
Israel. Israel's a friend of the United States.
I agree.
This has been
Agree with all that.
conservative policy since 1940.
I agree with all that, but there's a reason. Like, do you think J.D. Vance is a bigot?
No, I don't think J.D. Vance is a bigot, but I don't hear him saying this crap that Tucker and Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens are saying. I don't hear
Because
him spinning
he's not
conspiracy
out there.
theories.
But do you have any doubt in your mind that he would be less of a friend to Israel than Marco Rubio?
Well, that's actually
I think he would be less of a friend to
that's
Israel.
a very good question.
I think he would.
So in Trump's dream ticket, and you notice when he says it, he always says Marco first and JD second. I think JD Vance.
I think Marco's probably closer to Trump on foreign policy than JD is. But JD is I think the future of the party. And I think it was either you or Andy said, to your point, the 50 or the under 50 crowd now, even in the Republican Party, has turned on Israel. It was just the young people on the left and independent. And now in the Republican Party, the youth has turned on Israel. This is not all because of podcasters. It's I would submit to you, because of Israel, because of Netanyahu, because of the messaging around the war, and because of the Iran strike, which the younger generation is against. They're like, fuck you and your never-ending wars and your willingness, your trigger finger willingness to put me in them. That's how they feel. If we wind up in a war with Iran, who's going to fight it? Me. That's what these young people. Not
but
me,
that's
Megyn
not
Kelly.
what the polling
That's
shows.
What these young
Megyn,
people are
that's
feeling.
not what the polling shows. Tom and I were at the Reagan Library last weekend, and what's it called? The Reagan National Defense Poll, Tom?
Yeah, the Reagan Defense Forum.
Yeah, and the polling shows plurality of Americans all across any demographic age, any party, think that America has a place to leadership in the world. And I asked Rachel Hoff, who was the director of the what's her title, Tom? But anyway, she presented the poll to this group, and we had her on our show, and we asked her. So it sounds like the average MAGA voter is a lot more internationalist than the MAGA leadership. She agreed. That's what
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean they want war. They want to start bombing more countries and I think that's where the divide is. There's some resentment toward Israel because they feel like they're going to drag us into a war. Yeah. And I understand the defense. The Israel defenders say, hell no, Israel doesn't need our help. They want us to stay out of their way. That's what they want. They just want us to not give them the red light, but either give them the green light or stay out of their hair, because they obviously can take care of their own business. With the Iran thing, it was a different story. They did need us on that, and we went in, did what Trump thought was right, and that was the end of that, at least for now. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not that interested in Israeli politics, to be perfectly honest with you, but I am interested in whether it's going to cost Republicans elections, especially with young people, because we can't handle a Kamala Harris as president, and there's rumors she's going to run again. I don't think we can handle a Gavin Newsom. We certainly can't handle an AOC. I mean, look, we will handle, but it's going to be very tumultuous and hard. And I would take any Republican over those nutcases, which leads me to Gavin Newsom. Okay, now we're on to Gavin.
Good transition.
So thank you. He's continuing his little, I was born a poor black child routine, which he wasn't. He's basically a Getty.
That's too, come on.
I mean, are you practically a Getty when you're you're on Getty, John Paul Getty is your basic uncle?
No, Gordon Getty was his
photos.
godfather, I think. Gordon.
Yeah. Okay. So he's family. But he's still trying to do the poor me. I'm like this poor kid who had the misfortune of having to hang out with rich kids when I was growing up. And he's just dropped a new book. And he wants you to know you're going to love his book because he's amazing. And he is super open in his book. Just ask him. I think it's SOT 1, Debbie.
This is not the book you'd expect me to write. A lot of people look at me, the stark white shirt, the blue suit, and the gelled hair, and they think, oh, I know this guy. I know this guy better than I'd ever want to know him. I get it. It's a story about living between two worlds, one of wealth and privilege, and the other of more modest upbringing. The outsider on the inside, the interloper who learned to feel comfortable in many rooms. A story of self-doubt and, yes, ambition. I hope that whatever your opinions of me are, the openness, the honesty I felt in writing this and living it will resonate.
The openness, my openness and my honesty. He also says, this is a truly vulnerable book. It's a vulnerable book. So he wants you to know he's vulnerable, he's open, he's honest, he's both rich and poor. and you're going to love his book.
You're making
guys.
Tom's day, Megyn.
So, Megyn, I don't know if your listeners know this, but we have a running gag on our show that every time the name Gavin Newsom is mentioned, you have to take a drink, because
Yes.
Carl is Carl knew his father and he knows Gavin, and he's
A Californian.
yes, he's fondly predisposed to Gavin Newsom. Let's put it that way, and we tease him about that all the time. Look. This is, he's clearly running for president. He's ahead in most of the polls. He has, he's laying the groundwork here. And part of that is overcoming this resistance or this idea. And we saw it, he did that podcast where he tried to portray himself as, he's eating mac and cheese and peanut butter sandwiches, it was preposterous, and he got blasted for it. And so, but I think he's trying to overcome this idea that he's this elitist, West Coast elitist, and he can really connect in the heartland, and he's got these working class roots and all of that stuff. I also saw a theory that this is him. He's got some stuff in his background regarding,
Like he's a cheater.
Yeah, an affair with his campaign manager's wife.
While he was married to KG.
While he was
right?
married, and then he
Kimberly
went to some rehab or something. So he's got some stuff that
He went to fake rehab. He went to the rehab you go to when you did something bad and you're trying to look contrite. It was like alcohol rehab. He was blaming his affair on his alcohol use, but he came out still a drinker. Like, okay.
Right.
You got an F on your rehab.
So
still a moderate drinker, though. It's moderate now, Tom.
Right. So he's trying to get that stuff out on his own terms before there's some, expose. And it wouldn't be from the New York Times or the Washington Post, but maybe, from a conservative outlet, sort of detailing some of his dirty laundry. So he's trying to manage his image heading into 2028. And we'll see whether he's able to do that. But he's clearly running, and he's clearly putting all the pieces in place to make a run at the nomination. And I got to say, in my opinion, he'd probably be the favorite, despite all of his flaws.
His dirty French laundry.
Yes.
On February 1st, 2007, Newsom publicly admitted the affair, apologized, and described it as a profound lapse in judgment. Upon reflection with friends and family this weekend, I've come to the conclusion that I'll be a better person without alcohol in my life. Unless it's on a moderate basis and it's post-rehab when no one's looking. In a 2018 interview, he clarified, no, there's no rehab. I just stopped, and said that after a period of abstinence, he resumed drinking moderately, claiming the earlier period was a reset. That is the fakest rehab ever. He had an affair. Okay, whatever, it happens. I'd respect him more if he was like, you know what, I had an affair. My marriage was ending. It did end. She moved on and was happily with Don Jr., and she got remarried to Eric Valencia for a while. And I moved on and felt like, what? Just be a man about it. I can't stand, I don't use the P word, but that's P word behavior where you're like, I'm a boozer, except I'm not. And I'm back on the moderate alcohol, but only moderate. Like, come on. All right, now wait, I want to ask you guys, Andy and Carl. Tom raises his story about being a poor child. And it's a lie. He was in like magazines as like what it's like to be a child of the rich because of the Getty connection. And his dad was a judge. He wasn't on Pauper's Row. Anyway, here he is trying to tell that to a podcast. It's SOT 2, and then I'll give you a little background that we pulled that's brand new to me. Saw too.
My mom was 19, pregnant, and divorced a few years later with 2 kids, came from no money, and just hustled, worked hard, grinding every single day, 2.5 jobs, no bullshit. Part-time bookkeeper. She did restaurant. That's how I got in the restaurant business. And it was just like hustling. And so I was out there kind of raising myself, turning on the TV, started, just getting obsessed, sitting there with the Wonder Bread and 5 stacks of,
it's like the White Stack 5 story.
Come on. Kraft macaroni and cheese. Bro.
Yeah, bro. Okay. So he was basically on public assistance. So here's the truth. Some of this we knew, but some of this is new to me. So his late father, William, former Associate Justice on the California Court of Appeals, served as an attorney for the Gettys' billion-dollar fortune. William Newsom was so involved with the Gettys, he helped personally deliver the ransom payment in response to the kidnapping of John Paul Getty III. That's pretty tight. I love and know you guys pretty darn well. I don't think I'd be the one who'd give the ransom payment if, God forbid, somebody got you. I'd be willing, but I probably wouldn't be the first choice. Gavin's parents divorced when he was 3, but William and Gavin did get big money from their Getty ties, from a 2003 San Francisco Weekly article. The Newsoms also each have owned stock in Getty Images, which is a $1.6 billion conglomerate that owns a number of 70 million photographs and illustrations. And also, in 2001, William, the dad, brought Gavin, the son, into a Hawaii beachfront real estate investment in which his initial $125,000 stake soared to more than $1 million in just 6 months. And then listen to this. 2 additional facts. San Francisco Chronicle, 2003. In 10, count them 10, of Gavin Newsom's first 11 businesses, the primary money came from the Getty family. Is that where you guys got your money to start Real Clear Politics? I don't think so. And last point, the Sacramento Bee, Gordon and Ann Getty paid about $233,000 toward Gavin Newsom's first wedding reception. His 30th birthday party, given by the Gettys, was Great Gatsby themed down to the flappers and Charleston's. Carl Cannon, the prosecution rests.
Well, here comes the defense.
So Bill Newsom was a judge. Gordon Getty was a very close personal friend, and Gavin didn't live with his dad. He and his sister lived in Marin, across the Golden Gate Bridge. Gavin was a jock. He wasn't a great student, played basketball and baseball. And he grew up middle class. But when he graduated from college, he went to Santa Clara and he went out in the world. He started a restaurant. I think it was the Balboa, the name of it. And he wasn't want to be in the restaurant business. He got into politics because all the red tape in San Francisco.
Was that one of the 11 businesces that were funded by the Gettys?
The first one. And it was a nice cafe. It was modest, a cafe. But he wasn't, that's that old Steve Martin line that Tom likes. I was born a poor black child. That wasn't Gavin, but they were a middle-class family. Bill had a place up in Dutch Flat, which is in the Mother Lode country, and he didn't even own it. He rented it, the judge. And so
no one's
I knew them.
Bill
I knew them at that time. And they didn't.
Why is he in the magazine under Children of the Rich?
Well,
did somebody make him pose in that and call himself rich and pose with the Gettys with his greased up hair? He loved that image. And he did have access. I don't know this for sure about you guys, but I just know from knowing you. I don't know, but I know. You weren't raised with silver spoons. I know you weren't.
I wasn't.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Nobody gave you $233,000 for your wedding reception. $233,000.
My parents gave me, Megyn.
Nobody funded your first 11 businesses. No. That's bullshit. It's stolen valor. It is. For those of us who are self-made, it's stolen valor. Those of us who actually did have to eat mac and cheese and boxed wine and all the bullshit for years, never knowing whether we'd be able to afford the clothes that we're sitting in today. Fuck him. He had so many hands up. I respect him if he came out and said, I was very, very lucky my family connections. We weren't rich, but we had this great connection to the Gettys. And they really helped me. And that's what makes me different from most people who had to claw their ways up. And that's why I want to help those people. That's not his story. He's dishonest.
So I'm going to put you down as undecided.
settle the argument, please.
I'll put it this way. I think that he has an authenticity problem, and he's trying to solve it by being even more inauthentic. And I think that's the problem here, is that I agree with you that if he just came out and sort of was honest about the mistakes he's made in life and the things that went well and things that didn't go well, people might be interested in that. He seems incapable of that. And I think his slickness is both his superpower and his Achilles heel, because I think people see through it. And but nonetheless, he is at the top of most of the polls that we're looking at right now. He's coming off this great big win on the redistricting in California. He's set himself up as the anti-Trump. The rest of the field is kind of fumbling while he seems to be moving forward. So he's a formidable politician, no matter how you look at it. And he's got to run it on his record in California. I think that's what people really care about, not his
which is not great,
okay,
by the way.
He's kind of pulling, which is also not great, but he's pulling a Jasmine Crockett right now because she launched her U.S. Senate campaign by just she defines herself around Trump.
Yes.
It's all Trump's criticisms of her, right? And look what he just put out today. Gavin Newsom, not on the heels of that redistricting win, which you can't take away from him. He did have. This is what he just dropped. Zero. Watch. It's an AI video he made. It's Trump, Hegseth, and Stephen Miller. Is that who it is over there? Yeah. In handcuffs, in the back of a police car, it looks like, crying, putting their faces in their hands. Now their hands are behind their back. The handcuffs are behind their back, and they're walking like a perp walk in their suits like they're criminals. Andy, you're making faces I've never seen you make before.
That's the first I've seen that video. That's new to me. I hate this use of AI in these ads. I think it's terrible that they do it. I'm not sure what the message of that. Well, I can guess what the message is, but why today? And
I think we know.
And that's I think that's bad politics.
I think they're responding to a White House post that said something about it's cuffing season or cuffing season or something like that. And so, but look, he has been very active on his team on social media, and in a ways that quite frankly, a lot of people, myself included, thought was really kind of cringy and hokey. But nevertheless, if you operate under the theory that any publicity is good publicity, he has been able to keep himself in the news and at the top of the heap of the Democratic Party, even while, Kamala's been doing her book tour and trying to get her reset and get back in the game. And you've got J.B. Pritzker, my governor here in Illinois, who's been battling Trump in Chicago and all of that. And so Gavin Newsom has managed to stay relevant. The question is, it's so early now. Like, is there can people be overexposed? Can Gavin Newsom, can we get too much of him too soon where people are just like, oh, I can't handle any more Gavin Newsom.
I'm there.
He's got this little, the way he uses his hands when he talks. I mean, it's
oh God, it's weird.
It's a little weird. Yeah.
Do you guys remember, it was only a year ago, 2 years ago, Ron DeSantis was his foil in the Republican Party, and he picked fights with DeSantis everywhere he went.
Yeah.
He showed up.
They debated on Hannity.
That's right. He showed up in Simi Valley at the Reagan Library for the first debate. Trump deciding quite properly, as it turns out, that he wasn't even going to dignify these people at the debates. Trump treated himself as the nominee in waiting, and that turned out to be right. But we didn't know that at the time. And Newsom came down. He's the governor. I said, what are you doing here? He's told people, well, I'm the governor of the state, and it's a beautiful library, and I just want to welcome all the press and the Republicans to, the Reagan Library. And of course, then the real reason he was there is to set a trap for Ron DeSantis, who he thought was going to be the nominee, and he was going to be the rival. And they debated, and you guys said so. The thing about Sean Hannity that was so interesting to me, Hannity moderated the debate, and Hannity agrees on issues with everything Ron DeSantis said and nothing Gavin Newsom says. And yet Hannity clearly liked Gavin Newsom more than he liked Ron DeSantis. And that was the first clue to me that this guy had the kind of charisma maybe that would translate to a presidential run. It was Sean Hannity who gave me that idea.
It's now called Riz.
Yeah.
I just want you to know that.
That's
the
right.
kids have gotten rid of the first and the last part of that word. Okay. I don't know why they do what they do. Stand by, you guys, because there's a couple more things I want to discuss with you. We'll do it on the opposite side of this break. Don't go away. RCP is still here, and then later, Doug Brunt. You know how every family has got that one holiday cooking disaster story? Some of us have more than one, like maybe trying to serve the turkey that was still frozen. Well, if that's the case, you could have used Chef IQ. Chef IQ Sense is the wireless cooking thermometer that takes all the guesswork out of holiday meals. Your roast, turkey, or prime rib comes out perfect every time, turning "I think it's done" into "I know it's perfect." It even tells you when to flip, when to take it off the heat, and how long to let it rest. Basically, it's like having a personal chef right in your kitchen. With Chef IQ, you can sip your cocoa and actually spend time with your family instead of hovering over the oven. It's the gift everyone will love. Perfect for seasoned cooks, kitchen rookies, and everyone in between. This season, give yourself and your loved ones the gift of perfectly cooked meals with Chef IQ. And with my promo code MK, you can save 30% and get all your shopping done. Go to chefiq.com, promo code MK, chefiq.com. Okay, guys, so you may not know this, but on December 12th at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., they will present the Walter Cronkite Awards for Excellence in Political Journalism. And not only are none of us Times Person of the Year, but none of us are getting a Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Political Journalism. And this, too, is bullshit. It's bullshit. Why isn't Susan Crabtree getting one of these awards for all the breaking stuff she did around Butler and since then on the Secret Service and so many inside Washington stories, or just RCP in general, which has a great stable of reporters? Why aren't you getting it instead of, I'm not kidding, Rachel Maddow? Rachel Maddow.
For what category?
The biggest
She works like one day a week.
conspiracy theorist on camera. But truly, like, you can, like, there's no bigger conspiracy theorist than Rachel Maddow. I mean, that's all she's peddled in for the past 10 years. And she never owned it. She was on one of the late night shows just last week. Like, I think that Russia coverage I did has been proven pretty true right now, since they're literally taking Kremlin talking points to strike the Ukraine deal. No, it hasn't proven true at all. You're a liar. Nothing you said was true, and you never owned it. She's getting recognition for her excellence in political journalism, Carl. The award will be handed out by the USC Annenberg School for Communications and Journalism, which is a part of the USC in Los Angeles. She's going to get one, and the reason they say these people are getting one is, quote, the message is that these winners, by honoring these winners, is that the press is not the enemy of the people. It's the firewall between the public and disinformation, abuse of power, and corruption. Rachel Maddow and Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, who's getting the inaugural award in comedic news and commentary. Jon Stewart. Greg Gutfeld has 10 times Jon Stewart's ratings and relevance. He is the only thing relevant when it comes to comedic programming. And Jon Stewart he does not do objective programming on anything. And he doesn't do comedy either. All he does is bashing of right-wing people. I'll give you one example. Here he is.
I think you are not living in the planet most Americans are, which is why this kind of extremism, this anti-white extremism, is losing popular support.
This is what happens when white people don't talk about it, is you have racist dog whistle tropes like this. I did not come on this show to sit here and argue with another white man. That's one of the reasons that we don't even engage with white men at Race to Dinner. Because quite honestly, if white men were going to do something about racism, you had 400 years. You could have done it.
I could finger snap.
Stewart's laughing
right now.
Let's remove it then from the calling me a racist, John.
You've been doing a pretty good job with it yourself there. So
that's Andrew Sullivan. I mean, truly, like, deeply respected, deeply thoughtful, center right, but not far right, openly gay man. Like, F him for the way he and his guests treated Andrew. And that's what gets you an award now from the Cronkite Center, guys, from the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Political. This is disgusting. Thoughts?
I have one. I didn't know her name, but the woman said, if white men want to do anything about racism,
she's the lady, Carl, who you can pay $5,000 to show up at your next Real Clear Politics holiday party and call you all racist. Yeah, that's what she does.
I think
she
we'll take a pass on that. But I would, if she crashes the party, I'll tell her that that this country had a civil war and that white men from every northern state marched into battle singing the John Brown hymn, and 300,000 of them died fighting in Mr. Lincoln's army to free the slaves. And that strikes me as maybe a little more of a sacrifice than going on Jon Stewart's show and pretending to care.
This just in, Carl Cannon is out of the running for next year's Walter Cronkite Awards for Excellence in Political Journalism. That kind of commentary is not what gets you over the line, my friend.
Sorry.
But to me, it's just disgusting. They're bastardizing the name of Walter Cronkite. They've been doing it for a long time. But there was a time when those Cronkite Awards meant something. And now, like the third person who's getting one, there's actually a couple more, but Scott Pelley. Scott Pelley, guys. That's absurd. Scott Pelley's most memorable moment over the past couple of years has been his attempted cross-examination of the Moms for Liberty founders, where he tried to tell them that they're not peddling smut to children in the K-8 schools in the form of books that the kids are required to read and that the parents can't opt out of. You know how wrong he was? The U.S. Supreme Court just so found that it's happening and threw out the program that wouldn't allow Maryland parents to pull their children out of those classes. That's how wrong he was. The U.S. Supreme Court said so, but he gets awarded this, the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Political Journalism, Tom.
Well, I mean, these things have become just a caricature and a parody of themselves, right? And, I heard your clip, you were talking about the Golden Globes and how when you worked at Fox, like Roger Ailes, wouldn't even let you guys apply for any award because they were all...
Never.
Right. They were all from leftists, for leftists, and that's exactly what this is. There was a prize earlier this year. The Dow Prize this was the second year of the Dow Prize, which is basically awards not just conservative journalism, but sort of middle of the road, what used to be sort of objective journalism, and also local journalism that was done in across the country. And you mentioned Susan Crabtree. She won it. Not this past year, but the year before that, the inaugural Dow Prize for her work on the Secret Service. And this year, the Federalist, the whole team won it for their coverage of the sort of Russia collusion thing.
That was well deserved.
Yeah.
Too.
So unfortunately, the I was going to say the right, and to a certain extent it is the right, but it's not like the hard right. It's more like the center right. Had to sort of stand up their own infrastructure to see their work recognized, because it was never getting recognized by the usual suspects. They've been doing this, patting each other on the back, giving each other Pulitzers for the Russia coverage and the COVID coverage and all this stuff.
Amazing.
I mean, it's become a joke, and I think most people recognize it as such, except for the Rachel Maddows and Jon Stewarts of the world, who are like, "Oh, this is such a prestigious honor. I can't, how lucky I am." I know, exactly, and it's like, give me a break. I mean, most people are
Andy,
over it.
The Scott Pelley Award is based on his May 2025 reporting on the law firms versus Trump story. That was a big story when Trump was saying the federal government is not going to do business with certain law firms, like the ones who are hiring my chief antagonists and the ones who have spent the past 5 years suing me. And so no question, fair game to cover that story. But how would you do it if you had, say, Mark Elias as your star witness on 60 Minutes and you're Scott Pelley?
Well,
Mark Elias, okay, the guy who was the chief architect, one of them, of the Democrats' Russian collusion hoax, who was out there on behalf of Hillary Clinton campaign pushing the lies about Trump and Alpha Bank and the servers in the basement, all of which were lies, and they knew they were lies, and they were using them to bring down Trump. We know all of this from the classified materials that have been released over the past 6 months. And you have Mark Elias sitting there, and you're Scott Pelley. You might raise it. You might at least raise it when you talk about why Trump hates his firm and why he's getting so unfairly targeted by the evil Trump. That didn't happen. Here's a little from that segment for which Scott Pelley's now being honored.
It was nearly impossible to get anyone on camera for this story. because of the fear now running through our system of justice. Many firms and attorneys have been targeted, among them Mark Elias, a longtime opponent of Trump, who is the only lawyer the president has named who was willing to appear on 60 Minutes. Elias and others are warning that Trump's assault on the legal profession threatens the rule of law itself. Elias says that for him, it began with the president's personal grudge.
Donald Trump hates me because I fight hard and I fight for free and fair elections. I insist on fighting for democracy in court, fighting for voting rights in court, and insist on telling the truth about what the outcome of the 2020 election was.
Oh, my God.
Well,
Andy.
Well, see, I'd like to know a year from now, after Bari Weiss has had some impact at CBS, how many awards 60 Minutes will win like this. That will be one question.
Hopefully everyone's fired.
But my other thing is that, Rachel Maddow, I congratulate her, but there probably will be more people in that room watching her get the award than there are people watching her on MS Now. So there's some compensation there for her, I think.
This is just a disgrace. I'm sorry. I don't think anybody cares about the awards, but
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, people don't know what a sort of, or maybe they should be told what a sort of nefarious character Mark Elias is too, and to let him sort of have sort of free reign to spin his yarn about how he's a real defender of democracy. I mean, this guy is one of the most odious characters.
Wait a minute. Let's not use words like nefarious and odious. He's a Democratic Party operative. He's operative.
Odious.
That's my girl.
Look, that's a subjective.
Megyn, do you see what I have to deal with every single day?
That's a subjective.
Good gracious! This must be very hard.
But those are subjective feelings that you have. But the objective truth is that this guy is a paid operative for the Democratic National Committee, and he's made millions of dollars attacking Republicans, not voting for voting rights, but for voting procedures that help Democrats. And we don't have to demonize him to point out that it's bad journalism to present him as a neutral arbiter. He's a player.
Yes. Why would Trump want to do business with his law firm? Why?
That's the point.
No, it's true.
That's the point.
But unfortunately, instead of being excluded from any sort of an award for that ridiculous sin of journalistic coverage, Scott Pelley now gets honored for the very report itself, and this will be him at the awards with his glasses down at the end of his nose. I was right all along. I'm better than you, and we all know that because I host 60 Minutes. And if Bari is the woman I think and believe her to be, she will fire his ass before we are halfway through 2026. That's my prediction. He's fucking out of there. Look forward to that news. And I got to go. I'm out of here too because Doug Brunt's in the wings, and he's got an eggnog for me, unlike you fine gentlemen. So I got to go.
Thanks, Megyn.
Love you guys. Yep. Thanks for coming on. Let's be honest. America can still be a dangerous place, and you cannot afford to wait for help. Sure, you could use a firearm, but in today's America, defending yourself with deadly force could have legal consequences. According to FBI data, 99.9% of all altercations do not require lethal force. And that's exactly why so many are turning to Byrna. Byrna is proudly American, hand-assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. These less lethal self-defense launchers are trusted by hundreds of government agencies, law enforcement departments, and private security companies. Over 600,000 Byrna pistols have been sold, mostly to private citizens who refuse to be victims. Byrna launchers fire rock-hard kinetic rounds and powerful tear gas and pepper projectiles capable of stopping a threat from up to 60 feet away. No background checks, no waiting periods, and Byrna can ship straight to your door. Take responsibility. Protect your future. Visit Byrna.com right now or your local Sportsman's Warehouse. That's BYRNA.com or your local Sportsman's Warehouse. Visit now and be prepared to defend. I'm joined now by a very special guest, a New York Times bestselling author, host of the excellent podcast Dedicated with Doug Brunt, and the author of the upcoming book, The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel, Romanovs, Revolutionaries, and the Forgotten Titan who fueled the world. Doug happens to be my husband as well, so that worked out well. Hi, honey.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Congrats. So here is the galley copy of the new book, which is just so cool looking. It's beautiful. The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel. And it looks kind of similar style to your last big New York Times bestseller, The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel. Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel will not be available until May, but they can pre-order it today, have it in time for Father's Day.
Yeah.
And tell us what The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel is about.
Well, getting the galleys is such a nice moment. We open the box, as a family around the dining room table, and you pull them out and you see it and you hold it in your hands after years of working on it. It is a companion book to the Diesel book. Emanuel Nobel has an appearance in the Rudolf Diesel story.
But you don't have to have read Diesel in order to read this book.
It can be out of sequence. And in fact, I haven't said this really. The only people who know this next piece are you and my editor and a few people in archives around the world. But I'm working on a third, which will complete a trilogy of these 3 turn-of-the-century characters. Emanuel Nobel essentially established the Russian oil industry along the Caspian Sea in southern Russia. So by 1900, he and his family had built an oil business larger than Standard Oil. And in World War I, he controlled more oil than anyone else on the planet. So it was this huge prize sitting in southern Russia that Germany, the Brits, the Bolsheviks, the communists, Japan, everybody wanted to get to the Nobel oil because they had essentially developed a whole oil infrastructure that was superior to anything else in the world.
Superior to Rockefeller. That's crazy.
Even to Rockefeller. And yet, for reasons explained in the book, Nobel has been obliterated from history.
Totally.
So this brings him back to life and tells the story.
The only Nobel anybody knows is Alfred Nobel, who started the Nobel Prizes. This is Emanuel Nobel, his nephew, built a totally different, bigger fortune that has been totally forgotten, wiped out. His name is not really known at all in connection with the awards. That's all the Uncle Alfred who did dynamite. That was his business. And it's do you reveal why? But I mean, like
a little. I mean, it has to, of course, when the communists took over, Stalin and Lenin, they nationalized all these businesses. But everyone, even in that time, even when the Bolsheviks had taken over, everyone thought the communists are going to last about 3 days. And so there's an interesting negotiation between Standard Oil and Rockefeller and Nobel about all these Russian assets of petroleum, what to do with them, because nobody believes Lenin's going to last. And with regard to the prize, though, so Alfred Nobel and the prizes, he was an investor in the oil business of his brothers and nephew, but the prize wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Emanuel either. And there are 2 funny stories about that. When Emanuel's father, Ludwig, dies, Alfred and Ludwig are huge celebrities around the world. And the newspapers in France, where Alfred lives, mistakes who's died. They thought Alfred died. So they print this obituary for Alfred Nobel, calling him, as the inventor of dynamite, this merchant of death, and caused more, killing than anyone in history. And so he reads his own obituary and thinks, holy crap, this can't be how I'm remembered. And so he changes his will to establish the prize and gives, tons of his money away. And of course, all his, after he dies, all the other Nobel people are like, you must be joking. Like the fortune's going to this crazy prize, including the King of Sweden, who pulls out Emanuel aside. And Emanuel's in charge of the estate, basically, for his Uncle Alfred and the prize. And everyone in the family's fighting it. The King of Sweden is like, you don't want to pay attention to these crazy pacifists. This is nonsense. You should take care of your family and put all the money toward that. So Emanuel stands up to the King of Sweden and says, no, we're going to, I'm taking my role as the executor of his will seriously. We're going to have the prize. And so he, at the last second, rescues the prize.
Had it not been for Emanuel Houston. But the funny thing is it's like you think about, Russia, and they've got one huge asset. Well, 2. One is oil, and 2 is their ability to mess with you online, right? Like those are 2 big assets that they have. Those are their 2 primary weapons. There's also the matter of nuclear weapons. But in any event, this is their main source of income, is their petroleum industry. Yeah. And it wasn't theirs, and they didn't invent it. And actually, nobody was doing it at all in Russia until Emanuel Nobel came along and it was like, hey, look at all this stuff. This actually looks quite interesting.
It was when they first bought land in Baku, the Caucasus, in present-day Azerbaijan along the Caspian Sea, people were skimming oil out of puddles. There was no drilling. Any wells that were dug by hand with spades. So they come down there with they are chemists and engineers by trade, and so they come down there and they completely turn it around. But this was in the 1870s, in the time of the czars. So the book has these amazing detours through history that include the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and Dostoevsky and
tons
Fabergé.
On Stalin. I learned so much about Joseph Stalin that I did not know. And you personalize his backstory in a way that I didn't know. Like, how did he grow up to be this murderous, crazy dude? Mm-hmm. And now I know. I mean, you actually have a lot of backstory on Stalin. And you see the rise of these 2 men, very, very different in character, but in strength, they were equals for a long, long time, Emanuel, Nobel, and Joseph Stalin. So you learn a ton about world history, about Russia. Everything that Russia is today is explained in this book. But you don't feel like you're learning. You feel like you're just getting a caper.
Well, yeah, it's written ideally in a very novelistic way. It's a ripping read. I mean, you go through it, but it has these fun detours, but it is a piece of history. And Stalin, as you say, grew up as a neighbor to Nobel in southern Russia. He grew up in Georgia, which is between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. And he actually worked in the oil fields of the Nobels and the Rothschilds, who are another big figure in Russian oil. And so Emanuel Nobel and Joseph Stalin, they're sort of like these counterpoints to each other. And Stalin is looking at these oil capitalists, industrialists with envy and hatred. And, ultimately, the whole book brings this collision is coming.
Yeah, he was looking at Nobel's oil the same way Zoran Mamdani is looking at the billionaires in New York. All right, now, so don't forget, it's called The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel by Douglas Brunt. You can get your pre-order right now. That would help Doug out and yours truly, because I'd love to see the book be a success.
And avoid the mayhem of pub day. Like Diesel sold out. People couldn't get it for like 2 months because Simon & Schuster had to go back and print more copies. If you pre-order it now, it shows up on your doorstep or your bookstore has it. It's all
true.
Easy.
You don't have to wait. And that's happening right now with Charlie's book, where they've already sold out.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait months for his book.
They always underestimate anybody who's conservative or married to a conservative.
Conservative adjacent.
Yeah, they do, because they just assume there's no audience for that, because that's not the world in which these book publishers live. So it's called The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel. Get your copy now. Now, more importantly, what do we have here with us?
Yes, my God.
And explain what happens on Dedicated.
All right, first we have our Jack Carr tumblers with the, I don't know if it can show up here with the ice, but it's got the Tomahawk Navy SEAL thing. So shout out to Jack Carr. Merry Christmas. Thank you for the glasses. We're going to have a little traditional eggnog with bourbon.
It's organic. It's healthy.
Low-cal organic.
It's like having an egg.
We learned that lesson a few years ago.
Yes, exactly.
We'll do it with rye, Michter's rye.
Yeah, what officially goes in an eggnog?
Some people do bourbon, some do rum, some do both.
And what are we doing?
Rye, which is basically bourbon.
Okay. The reason that we're doing this is it's eggnog, and why not? It's that time of year. But B, on Doug's podcast, which is called Dedicated with Doug Brunt, where he interviews authors. He both interviews authors and talks about their books, and he always pours a cocktail of choice. Could be virgin, could be alcoholic. This one happens to be alcoholic.
It's almost always alcoholic, thank God. And everyone drinks the drink. Michael Lewis was on the other day, and he's like, do people actually drink the drink? He had a Sazerac, by the way, which is like the New Orleans cocktail.
Sazerac?
Yeah. It's basically similar to an old fashioned.
Now he's doing the nutmeg.
Nutmeg over the...
Didn't we do this last year? Didn't we do the eggnog last year?
We did. And I think I had to read your ad by the end, or maybe that was a different show. Cheers, honey. Merry Christmas.
Honey. Love you. Oh, yeah, that's tasty.
Our first eggnog of the season.
That's delicious. I know. Well done. Yeah, no, and we talked about how that one year we were drinking eggnogs like they were going out of style when we were young. We didn't have kids. And we both blew up like ticks. We were huge.
We're looking in the mirror like something's changed in our diet.
Is it possible? It's the eggnog.
The full fat eggnog.
And then we looked at the nutritional information on the box.
Which, by the way, the
horrifying.
low fat isn't a whole lot better.
What is it? What does it say?
Well, 150 calories. A lot of cholesterol in there.
Yeah.
A lot of sodium in there.
Oh, really? Sodium?
Decent amount of sugar.
Nothing is worse than the Martha Stewart recipe. I mentioned this to you this morning over coffee. I just saw it on X. Steve, I'll send it to you. We had to drop it in for the listening audience. This thing was loaded with alcohol. First of all, it was like so many eggs and so much sugar and so much heavy cream. And then on top of that, it was like 3 cups of bourbon, 3 cups of rum, and 3 cups of another alcohol.
Martha gets after it.
You're phoning it in with this rye business.
She's putting me to shame.
I don't know what you were thinking, Usually men are trying to get women intoxicated.
We're on set. You can't we can definitely add more booze, but getting involved in eggs and cream and stuff, we're not going to do that here.
No, you don't want egg cream of any kind. And she stuffed the yolks in there too. It was pretty nasty. So we're getting ready for our holidays. What have you been doing to get ready for the holidays?
I sent a few present suggestions, which is more than I normally do.
I'm only laughing because every woman knows that's a joke.
And every guy gets defensive.
No, we kind of have our shared responsibilities, I would say. But generally, the Christmas shopping is on my list because I want it to be.
Yeah. Well, you're so good at it. It's amazing. It's like Santa Claus threw up under the tree. There's like a million presents everywhere.
He helps me, and that's why I have an ace in the hole. I have a secret weapon.
You have a little elf up in the north.
Yeah, so I don't really need Doug Brunt's help because I've got Santa.
Although I do help a little.
You do help. But we were talking a little bit about our Christmas traditions. I was doing this for Steven Crowder, and there's so many that we do. Like we go to Montana every year, and there's a bunch of stuff we do over there. But what would you say? Like I've asked, what's our top, or what's a couple of top Christmas traditions that we have?
I mean, well, we're still, earmuffs on the kids. We're still firing away with the elf every morning, and the
they know.
Advent.
They know.
And we try to carol as much as possible, but that's not every year. We do have a great, like almost 20 years tradition of getting lunch with a particular group of friends in the city.
Yep.
It used to be at the 21 Club. Hello, that's got to open back up.
It does.
21 Club.
Yep.
But we have found new venues for that.
Wait a minute. What was the second thing you said?
The Advent
The
calendar?
caroling.
Oh, the caroling.
Do we really?
That's not really tradition. I say that's not an
Should
annual.
we reveal what happened last year when we caroled?
Yes, it's embarrassing, but it's a funny story.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
No one wanted us.
Well, our first stop was actually pretty good. They were amazed. They're like, this is so great. And we kind of knew them. And they thought, this is great. And the other dad was like, I'm coming with you. And he turns around and it's like, let's go. And they're all like, screw you, Dad. And he's like, next year, maybe I can join you.
Yeah.
But he was totally supportive.
It was just the five of us.
Yeah, just the five of our family. And so then we go to the next house. From that point forward, it went down. Like nobody really wanted. They're like, it's cold outside. Why'd I have to stand by this open door?
There was one moment where we were waiting across the street. We had our Santa hats on. We were freezing. And this SUV drove by with the window down and just kind of waved at us. And we were like, jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell. like
shaking the bell at them.
It was like an assault of Christmas carols.
It was hard to get an audience.
Everyone was kind of like trying to squeeze the door closed, kind of like, I've got some people inside. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest outing. It's probably not going to be a tradition.
No.
But I'm thinking of things like when we watch It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So actually, you drive, in addition to getting the presents, you do drive a lot of these things. We do It's a Wonderful Life.
But everyone's a gamer.
With the salt and the bread and the whole bit and, ringing the bell when Clarence makes an appearance on screen.
And hissing when Potter.
You and I, like, the greatest tradition, bar none, of, Christmas aside, you and I start every morning with a cup of coffee. We've got the coffee machine in the bedroom. It's set the night before with the alarm. It goes off, and we start each day with 20 minutes together talking, having coffee. Sometimes listening to AM Update. Other times watching Christmas in Connecticut for a few minutes to start the day. It's just an awesome way to enter the day and enter the world, having connected a little bit.
It's so true. Right now we have a little tree in our bedroom. We've got some Christmas lights, and that makes it magical too. Like turn that on. The only thing Doug and I argue about in the bedroom is the temperature.
Yes.
Right?
God, yeah.
So now we both like it cool when we sleep. That makes sense. Everybody should have it. They say 68 degrees. It's good for your health. It's good for your sleep. But Doug would like the thermometer to be turned down much earlier in the evening so that it's like cold when we arrive.
Yes. That makes me irritable. We climb in bed. I'm like, it's so effing hot in here.
And I'm like, it's freezing. Because you can't function in there when it's 68 degrees. Like when you're doing your nighttime routine, you're washing your face, you're in your nightgown, you're freezing your ass off if it's 68 degrees.
You've got a heated floor though. You should just sort of like
That's
get
true.
low.
That is a luxury, by the way. When we bought the house, it had a heated floor. I've never had that, and it's wonderful.
It makes a nice difference.
Damn, as they say. So we're going to go to Montana. It's not snowy there, unfortunately.
No, early conditions, but
is that a blessing?
They're making some. Yes, for me. Like I'm happy to do a couple Groom Blues and then go sit by the fire, play poker with the kids, and like never get out of pajamas. Like a couple days like that would be great.
Doesn't that sound like heaven on earth for 2 weeks? It's going out there. We've got our annual costume night. I recommend this to everybody. You can go big. I mean, obviously I go big because I love costumes, but you can do this on a shoestring budget too. You just go to the local costume store and you get a couple of costumes for your family. It does not have to be fancy, but it needs to be a theme. It needs to be theme related. And then the way we do it in our family is on costume night, I like controlling it. So I'll put out the costumes on people's beds. You'll keep the kids busy. They all know it's costume night.
It's super fun because nobody knows what the theme is. Meg plans this every single year, and then the theme's amazing. One year was Back to the Future. One year we had watched the Ten Commandments. So I was Moses, and someone was the various kings.
You were the best Moses. Oh, look, here's Back to the Future.
Oh, nice.
Blurred the kids' faces. You were the best McFly. You were George McFly, the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yates was Marty. And you've got to do your imitation. Can you do your George McFly imitation?
All right. take your damn hands off her. I don't know if I nailed that.
You did.
Exactly,
I love it.
But.
And then we did Moses. We did 10 Commandments, and you made an amazing Moses. Years early. This was good. I mean, we went all out for the Moses. We got Pharaoh represented. We got Zephia.
If there's no one in the family who does this amount of planning as you do, which is amazing, because everyone fully appreciates it, but even like a wig night is kind of fun if you're like recommending to the audience. We have a closet full of wigs.
It's true.
And it's fun just to like, I don't know.
Somehow things are more fun in wigs.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you could just be eating your dinner. We don't actually do anything. Like somebody's asking, what do you do on costume? We're like, nothing. We just put them on. Then
laugh at each other.
There's the Wonka. That was a great one. Here's the funny story about these two people in there as Violet Beauregard and Augustus Gloop. They've since become dear friends of ours, but that night we didn't know them at all. So we were expecting two family members who then couldn't come. It was like right after COVID. That was either 2020 or 2021. It was right when things were still nutty because of COVID. And their flights got canceled. And these two go to our school, and we had just met them. And we're like, so would you like to come for dinner? They're like, sure, we'd love to. And we're like, and could you wear some
That's
weird
not exactly
costumes?
how it goes. There's no could you wear. It's like, Meg like lays down the law. When you cross that threshold, you're in her world. And she says, off you go. And here's your costume. And don't come back out until it's on.
It's kind of the price of admission.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we realized too late that Augustus Gloop winds up looking a little like Hitler Youth. He's in like a little military outfit with the blonde wig.
Yeah, it's very like Australian.
Our friends, Lisa and Chris, were such good sports. They donned the outfits, and it was such a fun.
I think he sort of entered with a little trepidation, but mid-dinner was loving it.
Once we got the liquor flowing.
Exactly. Well, that helps with all costumes and wigs.
But no, so the other piece of costume night is just to order a background from Amazon. So if you go into Amazon and you type in 10 Commandments or you type in Back to the Future backdrop, you will pull up so many options for $40 or under.
Yeah.
And $40 for the big one for 8x10. But if you want to go smaller, it's much cheaper. Anyway, my point is simply for under $150, you could probably get everybody in your family in a costume and with a backdrop. And that's really the end of it. So we'll try to sometimes do like the food that's themed appropriately. If like that night, one year we did Karate Kid, Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that was great.
We had Asian that night. That's about as much as it's not that like, then you just sit there and you laugh.
Specials.
Yeah. Oh, we did have John Kreese do one of those.
And speaking of like cheap, that was like $30 or something.
Yeah,
right?
one of those services where you can pay an actor to like say something personalized.
Yeah, it's like strike first, getting on with our kids, who, by the way, that was the best $30 we ever spent because the kids were totally into it.
And he called us the Blunts, I think, instead of the Brunts.
Yeah, wrong for sure.
It was close. Yeah. Whatever. You don't expect perfection from John Kreese.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't wait for all of that stuff to start. It's like that's what makes the 2 weeks magical. Like the Christmas is the apex of it, but if you put these other things around, then it's not as much of a letdown when Christmas is over.
Yeah.
You still.
And it's also that contains, one of the few times of the year where there aren't obligations all over the kids, especially, and us, and we get, tons of time together. High quality, low quality, but it all adds up. It's great time together.
Yeah. The poker's become a fun tradition.
Yeah.
The kids are getting more into Texas Hold'em.
We used to be able to beat them more easily.
I know.
We'd have the big stack in front of us. Now it's
or at least cheat them without them knowing, one or the other. But yeah, no, that's been fun. We got to learn some new games. The kids are now into Texas Hold'em, which I don't totally know how to play Texas Hold'em. You just hold 3 cards and you play off of.
You hold 2, and there's but it's like a betting thing. Once you learn how to bet, you're good. It's basically everything's a poker hand. So
we should try that.
Yeah,
let's do that. This time next year, we'll be sitting here talking about how well I did at Texas Hold'em.
Done.
Okay. So let's talk about the news a little bit because it's always fun to get your take on it. And I saw this article yesterday and I was like, this is a good one for Duggar. Here's a headline from the New York Post. Marco Rubio instructs diplomats to use Times New Roman font, eliminating Biden-era DEI initiative. Did you know there's DEI font?
I did not. By the way, I don't think the takeaway of this story should be that Calibri is woke. Exactly. But I totally get where Rubio's going on this.
Calibri does look a little light in the loafers.
It's a little different, for sure.
Times New Roman is like bald. We're showing it on the screen for the listening, for the people on YouTube.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Calibri is like skinny with softer edges, and it looks a little more feminine, I'd say.
Well, look, here's my overall take on this, because I understand what Rubio's doing. I'm sure when people heard about this, you could imagine the attacks. Like, you're running state, and this is what you're going to spend your time on. But it does matter. And firsthand, when I am working on these books, Simon & Schuster and I spend time on the font. Like, it's got to match the mission. And, you know, it's your first chance to set the tone, set the atmosphere for the audience that you're engaging.
The mood.
It's the last little bit of, you know, connection point that you have. And it does matter. It's why writers, authors, and publishers and editors actually focus on this. The font of different books looks very different depending on what kind of book it is. Like, if you open George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones and you see Times New Roman, you're going to be like, what is this? Like, the best versions of those books looked like it was written by an elf, you know, like Bilbo Baggins, like something a little medieval and fanciful. And, you know, especially like the first letter of the chapter should look that way. And so it's Rubio's way of creating a mindset or creating an atmosphere for the information he's putting out there. And you see that dynamic everywhere. It's the same as Bill Bratton's broken windows policing. You know, you walk into a neighborhood that's full of broken windows and graffiti on the walls and trash on the streets, and that creates a mindset and an atmosphere for crime. And Bratton and others before him have proven that if you fix the windows, paint the walls, clean up all the trash, and have this beautiful neighborhood, you prevent crime before it starts. And it's that same dynamic. It seems like a small thing, but setting that tone, setting the atmosphere matters.
Like strong, robust language or
so I get why he's doing it. If he was going to, the only change I would make is he shouldn't go back to Times New Roman. He should do like the Bilbo Baggins handwriting for all of our state communication. But actually, that reminds me of a story you were telling me the other day. It's the same thing of like the small tonal things. We should value and prioritize them more. Almost, we have to invert our thinking that these things are more important. It's like that Jordan Peterson piece that you were showing me.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that was so good. It was the Jordan Peterson soundbite on Instagram where he was saying, yeah, it's great to go to St. Bart's or Aruba and have a margarita, you know, down on the beach. Everybody would love that. But your life, he said in this clip, is how your wife greets you at the end of the day. It's how you are around the dinner table with each other, how you're treating each other, you know, whether you're, quote, present, you know, but truly it is. Like, do you feel valued when you walk into the room with your spouse or your kids or your family? Like that does make up your life. Well, so many more of our waking hours are spent around that table or that coffee mug than they are down in, you know, Aruba with a mocktail.
And they're small and they're often overlooked, and it's not, we don't think it was a big deal. And yet we really do need to invert how we think about that, because that's the biggest deal. As Peterson points out, that's 80% of your life, those little moments that add up. And so it's, you know, long way of saying, I think that's the same thing Rubio is getting at of like, this is the font they're going to be staring at for 10 hours a day. Like, this is an opportunity to set an atmosphere, to set a tone.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
What is a telegraph?
Yeah. So it's not trivial. It actually is something.
Well, this led to a discussion that we had about like, who do you want the kids to marry? You know, and I was saying, my God, they all have to marry somebody with a good sense of humor. Like number one.
Totally.
Right. And we were talking about this because it's like,
you're so lucky in that regard, because
you're very funny. I am lucky. Yeah, I treasure you.
Yeah, I will concede, though. You are actually the funnier of the two.
What? That's never been conceded before by anyone.
Well, I felt under pressure on air and everything. But
no.
Off air, I'm going to take it back.
But we laugh a lot.
Totally.
We laugh at each other.
And our kids are so good. All three of them have developed a different but awesome sense of humor.
Yes, because it is important. Number one, it's important to laugh at life. But it's almost equally important to be able to laugh at yourself and others. All of those things must be laughed at. It's not cruel. Like it's a stress relief mechanism. I really think it's the antidote to cortisol, right? Like just laughing. And life provides so many opportunities. It could be just a nothing, but like we're constantly making fun of ourselves, you know? And
I have noticed, I mean, you and I have had these little sidebar conversations when one of our kids isn't hanging in that department. Like he gets made fun of, and you can see like he's a little pissed off that he got a little made fun of. And we're like, that's not, I mean, we don't pounce on him at that point, but we're like, it's, you know, that's a sign that we need to keep doing that until he gets a little better at that. Otherwise he's going to, you know, it's not going to work out come college dorm days.
That's right. Life is tough. And you really do have to be able to laugh at all of it, or you're not going to make it very far. I really feel like, you know, my Nana, I've talked about her on the show too. She died at 101. She only ate processed foods. She never exercised a day in her life. So what did she do? She laughed a lot. She was very funny.
Yeah.
She had a circle of friends that laughed. She was very quick to make fun of herself, first and foremost, but everyone else as well. Like, I do think it could make the difference between life and death.
Totally. We need to study Nana and we need to study Dick Van Dyke. Whatever those two are doing, I'm going to do all of it.
Well, I was a little concerned about Dick Van Dyke's comments about how he made it to 100.
He did say he was like drinking way too much until his 50s.
That wasn't the part that concerned me. It was, he said,
I was sort of on board with that.
He said he's never, it was either he's never hated anyone or he's never been like rageful. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I don't think he's right about that. People can't self-analyze. They have no idea. We need to analyze him, from the outside. It was all the dancing.
It was the dancing.
The dancing. He's skinny. He's a skinny guy. That probably helps a lot.
It was totally the old bamboo in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Totally.
Once you learn that, you keep doing that dance, you live forever.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that?
The old bamboo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. We have to watch that with the kids. I think they're totally up for it. The kids, we used to watch this movie on a loop about 10 years ago.
You guys know Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Ago.
Yeah.
And it's such an amazing movie. It does have that AI haircut. So I saw your tweet on that, actually, that this was already invented in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But the kids, I think, have like foggy memories of it. So I'm excited to see how they see it now.
I love all parts of it. I love Truly Scrumptious. Yes. I love, love, love Dick Van Dyke. He's just so utterly charming. I love the apparatus he sets up in their house to cook the breakfast, to lift the blankets off the beds.
Yeah.
It's all great. The villains are great in Bavaria.
The whistle thing.
Yeah, Toot Sweet. That's such a great scene. Yeah. It's like, who even knew? But we had a very funny thing happen with our love of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang over our Fakesgiving holiday, where we have the family come for fake Thanksgiving, not the actual day, but it makes it easier on everybody who needs to travel. And we split the family into two groups to play charades. And our side was coming up with the clues for the other side. And then they came up with their clues for us. Now, unbeknownst to our opponents, who are also family members, our family is obsessed with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We know a lot about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We've seen that movie truly hundreds of times. Yeah, exactly. So there was a joke when we used to watch it. Our oldest, Yates, who was just a little guy at the time, like 2 or 3, he saw this one scene involving this boat, and there were these rounded things on the boat,
like funnels from the top of the boat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for whatever, and then the two bad guys hide themselves later in those funnels and go on land and start spying on people. And for whatever reason, Yates always referred to them as the barrels. I want to see the barrels. And he would do this with his hands. For listening audience, I'm like twinkling my fingers together. It needs to be like the barrels. Well, I got up there and I pulled my clue from the other side, and the movie was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And you were on my team, so I needed to act this out to you. And of course, they're wondering, I'm sure the other side is like, okay, maybe she'll do bang, bang. How's she going to get this? And all I said was movie, and then I did the finger motion. And you were like, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
At which point, there's no convincing them that we haven't been cheating. No. Like, there's nothing you can say. They're like, no. You obviously cheated.
None whatsoever. And we did crush them.
I mean, it was embarrassing.
It was brutal.
Emperors had to take pity on them.
It was brutal. It was so fun. I love charades. What a fun game. Our kids have recently introduced us to a new game.
Oh my God, that is so fun. What is that thing called?
Imposter.
Imposter. Yeah. So someone in the group, you can do it on your iPhone, which is actually a great use of the phone for this.
So explain it, how it works.
Let's see. Oh my God.
If there's 5 of us sitting there.
Remember.
The 5 of us are sitting there, and
someone's the imposter, and there's a word.
And everybody has to hold the phone at one point. Like,
yeah.
It starts off, I'll explain it. So if I were patient 0 of this 5-person game, but you can play it with 3 people too. I think 3 is probably the fewest you could do it with.
5, yeah, I would say 5 is.
Yeah,
5 or more would be most fun.
Yeah. So you you see the phone. I don't know the app. I'll ask the kids, but I'm sure if you Google imposter app, you can get it. And it will say, like, you agree as a family on which category you're gonna pick. Like, there's sports,
or whatever.
There's like movies.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked movies for one. Was I the first on that one? No, I wasn't. Okay, so Yardley went first on this one. And
I think I might take over.
No, I've got this. Unbeknownst to me, she got Peppa Pig. That was the clue. So Yardley wasn't the imposter, I was. And so when Yardley looked at the phone, it said Yardley, and she saw Peppa Pig. Then we handed it to Thatcher, and he saw Peppa Pig. Then they handed it to me, and I saw imposter.
Yes, you have no idea that it's Peppa Pig.
You don't know. So when the phone gets handed to you, it just says your name, because of the person who starts it just types in the 5 names who are playing. So when I see Megyn, I hit it, And then it either says imposter or it gives me the clue. And then we pass the phone around and then you start guessing. And the way it works is like Yardley went first. And so she said, oh, I knew we were in like TV and movies. And she said pink. Mm-hmm. And then the next person said Australia. And so when it got to me, I was the imposter and I thought flamingo. That's what I thought we were going for. Yeah. So when you're the imposter, you have to try to act like you know what it is. You have to like act like you know, and the other people have to, when they do know, have to reveal a clue that shows they know, but not so much that they're going to clue in the imposter. Yeah. So I said feather, and you go, Mom's the imposter, and everyone started laughing at me. Everyone started laughing because
it is. If you're early as the imposter, you don't have enough. You know, if you go late, you might get enough clues that you can sort of dial in on what it is. Otherwise, you're just sort of throwing darts and hoping to say something that makes any amount of sense to the rest of the group.
We are here today with Douglas Brunt promoting his new novel, The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel, even though it doesn't sound like it. You can get it on pre-order right now. It's well worth your time. But that game, Imposter, is worth your time as well. However, be more ambiguous than I was with that whole thing. Now, I want to keep going. a little. We're going to keep going past the break a little bit. Sorry, EJ. I'm going to eat into the next hour just a bit. In the news today, well, yesterday, but also today, is the fact that they have named a new CBS evening news anchor. Did you know that they were looking for one?
The only reason I know anything about this story is you tweeted how irrelevant it is. And I saw your tweet, and I'm like, oh, what's so irrelevant? And it was DeCopel.
Yeah. Tony DeCopel. Do you know anything about Tony DeCopel?
I don't. I remember he got in trouble for like doing an interview that pushed back a bit in a way. I don't remember all the details about it, but I remember he pushed back in a way that seemed like actual journalism, and he got some blowback for it.
It was a great moment,
on
actually.
the morning show. So
Yes.
that's the only way I know him, which is a positive thing to know, I guess. But it is crazy irrelevant. I mean, you and I are the same age. We grew up in, 150 miles apart at the same time, like loving all the same movies, having the same high school experiences, and watching one of 3 evening news anchors. And that's almost how households identified in those times. Like, are you a Jennings house? Are you a Rather's house?
Yeah.
We were Jennings. You were Jennings.
We were Jennings too.
And no longer. Like, that's no longer how people, it used to be like, I'm an American, I'm a Christian or a Presbyterian, I'm a whatever that, and we watched Jennings. Like, it was in the top 10 of things you identify your household. And no longer, nobody even cares. Nobody, our age or younger gets news that way.
No, it's so irrelevant, right? It's like, I mean, I know I'm biased, but I think podcasts are far more relevant now. People, like, they have their loyalty, their allegiance to, like, this show. If you're going to spend an hour or two a day with somebody, it's not going to be the evening news. My God, why would you?
By the way, it used to be like the newspaper the next day was kind of stale from yesterday's news. The immediacy because of cable, and now, by the time it's made it through the producers and packaged and written and ready for primetime cable evening news, it's so old.
It's so old.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like all the mainstream media is writing articles like, can Tony DeCopel restore CBS to its former glory? I'm like, when? What glory? And they're like, can he get them out of third place? The answer is no, he cannot. He can't do that either. Nothing's changing in TV news other than diminishing ratings.
Maybe he can do something relatively with the other 3, but the 3 as a unit, like evening news, is going only one way, which is down.
No, one big Tyrannosaurus Rex, only not as scary. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Doug Brunt, who is here promoting his new book, which you can get on pre-order, The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel. We talk a lot about personal responsibility on this show. Well, here's one aspect that's really important, your health. And I'm not talking about following whatever the experts recommend. I'm talking about real data-driven decisions based on your body's actual numbers. We demand transparency in government, but most of us have no idea what's happening inside of our own bodies. Disease can develop silently for years before symptoms appear. By then, you're playing catch-up with expensive treatments instead of preventing problems when they are cheap and easy to fix. Well, I want to tell you about Gevity. They are revolutionizing preventative care with something radically different. 100+ blood markers tested at your home. Personalized supplement packs shipped directly to you based on your deficiencies. Biannual retesting to track progress, plus ongoing virtual consultations on your schedule. This is healthcare independence, and you get 20% off at gogevity.com/Megyn. with code Megyn. Don't forget to use that. That's GoGevity, GEVITI.com/Megyn, because no one should control your health decisions but you. We are back now with Doug Brunt. It was a very tough booking for me, but I made it this morning over coffee. He is here promoting his soon-to-be released The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel, Romanov's Revolutionaries and the Forgotten Titan Who Fueled the World. I like that. Not ruled the world, fueled the world.
Play on with the font that Rubio would approve of.
Well done, exactly. It's musculature. It's got musculature.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of history, turn of the century.
Yeah. Except we've changed the cover since then, since this.
Yes, not the font, but we got rid of the Romanovs.
Wait, hold on. Okay, there we go.
That lower right picture of the Romanovs, Tsar Nicholas II and his family who were brutally killed. We moved that to the back because it seemed like the cover was a little too busy with that on there. So
it's fun hearing the stories, right, about like how a book that you enjoy or wind up loving changed over time.
Yeah, like from the title to the cover art.
So here is The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel. This is Doug's bestseller. This book has sold a ton, hugely successful. And it's a mystery about Rudolf Diesel, who was the Elon Musk of his time, who went missing, and Doug solved the case. He solved the mystery of what happened to him. And it was not always called The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel.
No, I mean, for months and months, my editor and I were going back and forth, like, we're going to solve this over a bottle of wine. We came up with Engines and Empires. It's the Diesel engine. And I loved it. He loved it. 11th hour, they have a sales meeting with the internal SNS team. Barnes & Noble has a sales team that contributes to this stuff too. The CEO, John Karp of Simon & Schuster. And so I get this call. We've already printed galleys, like what we have for Nobel. And it has the Engines and Empires title. And he's like, everyone loves the book. It's charming. It's atmospheric. It takes us to this early Downton Abbey era and a crazy mystery. And it's super fun and great history, except the title. We got to change the title. I'm like, what?
That's the one thing we had.
So they had come up with a different title, and in the last second, it was that. So those things happen, and it's kind of a fun part of the journey when the book is all aspects of it. I really love the research and time in the archives. All of it is great, but these fun little twists at the end, and looking at the cover art, the SNS cover art team, their art department is amazing.
It's very cool,
and it's always interesting to hear or see how someone else has an expression of the story, like what did they come up with for a cover of this book you just spent years writing?
Right. It's like yours. It's your personal baby, your creativity, your research, all of that went into it. And then somebody else has got strong thoughts on it. And it's fascinating to get the first read back or feedback on how somebody else sees it. Yeah. Like, what is this book about? What it should be called? You do host a podcast, which we're actually now airing on the Megyn Kelly channel on Saturdays, called Dedicated with Doug Brunt, which I mentioned. And you had a very interesting interview the other day with Michael Lewis, famed author.
Author of Moneyball and Blindside and Liar's Poker.
Yeah, all of which have become big movies. And he winds up telling you a story about, okay, I'm not going to give it away. Listen to this story. I'm just going to run the soundbite. It's going to end in a big reveal about somebody you, the Megyn Kelly show listeners and watchers, know very well. This guy's everywhere. He's Waldo. He's everywhere. Okay, listen to Michael Lewis talking to Doug Brunt.
One of the people I interviewed for this podcast was Steve Bannon. Mm-hmm. My connection to Steve Bannon, he bought the movie rights to Liar's Poker.
Oh my God. I didn't know he was even in that business.
You did know he was in that business. Where do you think his money came from? Seinfeld. He went from
Steve Bannon was involved with
Steve Bannon went
Seinfeld?
From the Navy to Harvard Business School to Goldman Sachs to Hollywood. Bannon told me, I just found this out like a month ago, that not only did he buy the movie rights, but he was so pissed off by how bad the script was they got out of a very fancy scriptwriter that he went off in a little dark room by himself and wrote a Liar's Poker screenplay himself. Wow. He was obsessed with this.
Did you get to read it?
Well, this is the next thing. I'm going to go see him, and he says he has a copy somewhere. So I want to read it. I want to see what he did.
That would be amazing.
I'm glad you played that clip. I got to follow up with Michael Lewis to find out how the Bannon meeting went. This is all sort of happening now.
You call him and I'll call Steve. Yeah, and we'll see whether this is happening.
I would love to see that. Liar's Poker is an amazing book. It's still read today.
Poker has not yet been made a movie.
Has not been made a movie, but it's his first book. It was a breakout book. He tells so many amazing stories of how he first started writing. He was working at Salomon Brothers and Wall Street, and he has sort of a Jerry Maguire moment. He gets this article published about how bankers are paid too much. And it goes in the Wall Street Journal. And someone had sort of stuck their neck out to get him this job at Salomon Brothers. So he comes up the elevator feeling like I've written this. I'm in the Journal. Like, this is so exciting. And the guy who got him the job is at the top of the elevator bay, like ashen, looking like, what have you done? Like, you can't do that. You can't work here and do that. You pick one. Yeah, so he ends up actually writing financial articles under a pseudonym for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, but then he comes out with Liar's Poker, which is an amazing book.
This reminds me of a story when I was practicing law where we had a client who came to us already having had a default judgment entered against them. Like they had blown off this complaint repeatedly, and the plaintiff got a default judgment against them because they failed to defend. Then they called us and said, will you help us? So I was a low person on the totem pole. So they sent me in there like, go get this default judgment vacated for our client, which is an uphill battle. So I went in there and it was very contentious. And the other side, the plaintiff did not want the default judgment to go away. We really battled. And the judge gave me a super hard time because the client had been completely derelict in defending. And it was just a funny and tumultuous time in my career. So long story short, they vacated the default judgment. And the court wrote this opinion, like in writing that you can still look up now, where he really praised me and the oral argument, but he completely dumped on my client. And I was so young. I was like, this is the greatest opinion ever.
He loved me.
I brought it back to Jones Day and I'm like, look what they said. And of course the seasoned lawyers were like, this is not a great opinion for our client, who now is like being ripped by a court on the record repeatedly for its dereliction of duty. I'm like, but I got the right result and look at all the praise for me. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
And
like Michael Lewis, you went on to a great career.
Yes,
from there.
It all
in a
wound
different
up,
place. You know,
that's right. All wound up working out different industry altogether. Although some of the skills translated. Here's the other piece of news I wanted to talk to you about. We've been trying to get this on. This has been out for a week now. The Atlantic dropped a piece called "Accommodation Nation," and this piece, you may not have read it, but it is all about something that you're very familiar with. How many schools now, this focuses on colleges, but it's true in high schools and other schools too, have, quote, disabled students who need, quote, need extra time on the exams. It's gotten out of control. Even the Atlantic is calling it an explosion over the past 15 years. The increase is driven by more young people getting diagnosed with conditions such as ADHD, anxiety, and depression, and by universities making the process of getting accommodations easier. The change has occurred disproportionately at the most prestigious and expensive institutions.
Of course.
Right? Students, they write, you hear students with disabilities. It's not kids in wheelchairs, one professor at a selective university told the magazine. It's rich kids getting extra time on tests. Even as poor students with disabilities still struggle to get necessary provisions, elite universities have entered an age of accommodation. Here, listen to this. Individual universities. These are stats from the Harvard Crimson. Stanford, in 2014, 3% of the student body said they had a disability. Today, 38%.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that.
Brown, 2014, 10%, now 22. Cornell, 2014, 5%, now 22. Harvard, 2014, 3%, now 21. Yale, 2014, 8%, now 20%. The school with the lowest is MIT. They had 3% in 2014 and they have 8%. UC Berkeley, the number has quintupled over the past 15 years. Amherst, it's at 34%. At one law school, which they don't name, 45% of the students receive academic accommodations. And listen to this. It's because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was passed in 1990, meant to make life fairer for people who have actual disabilities. And you have to provide a reasonable accommodation. But now it's been expanded to people who basically have any physical or, quote, mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. And even beyond that, now in 2008, Congress amended the ADA to restore the definition to include a list of major life activities that could be disrupted by disability, including learning, reading, concentrating, thinking, even if it doesn't severely restrict your daily life. And now this depression thing, listen to this. Mental health issues have joined ADHD as the primary driver of the accommodations boom. The number of young people diagnosed with depression and anxiety has exploded. It doesn't need it. After the release of the DSM-5, the symptoms need only to interfere with or reduce the quality of academic functioning. That's all. Reduce the quality of your academic functioning. And for this, you get extra time or unlimited time on your exams or papers, or you can get out of homework, or you can get the professor to, quote, not call on you without warning. That's happening at Carnegie Mellon, per The Atlantic. Ohio State says 36% there have these issues. You can get extensions on take-home assignments, permission to miss class. You can get social anxiety disorder. If you say you have that, you can get a note so you're not called on in class. And then some get housing accommodations, including single rooms and emotional support animals. One administrator told me, writes the author, that a student at a public college in California had permission to bring their mother to class. This became a problem because the mom turned out to be an enthusiastic class participant. This is deeply wrong, and we've all seen it.
As you're reading that and all the stats, and there are all these universities you're talking about, it's occurring to me this is something we've talked about a bit before, but with this story, the real problem here is the college admission process. It's so screwed up.
And the parents.
It's the parents' fault and the university, because the parents gear everything around the wrong goal. We're supposed to be preparing these kids for life. So offering these little cheat codes to get a better grade, to get into the college, is not preparing you for life. It's preparing you to get into the college that makes the parent feel good, like Junior got into an Ivy or whatever it is. And it's ruined not only academics, it's ruined athletics, because that's the same thing too. Athletics used to be about teaching practice equals improvement and teamwork and all of these values that you get from sports. And in addition to just sort of having a rounded youth. Having a rounded youth, that's like the way to get into college in the 70s and 80s. Now you're not rounded. You have to be a specialist in one thing. You have to be the best violinist or the best chess player so you can get into Yale or whatever. Well-rounded is not valued at all. Mm-mm. And it's the same with these academics. If someone's like struggling on their SAT or on their math test, if they don't actually have a problem, giving them an extra hour to take it so they can get a little bit better grades, so they can get into a little bit better college, is backward. You should be teaching them how are you going to survive in the world?
Right. When you get out into the law firm or the investment bank or whatever you wind up doing, they're not going to give you extra time into the test. You've got to perform. Someone's there. The client needs this result by 5 p.m., period.
But no longer is anyone chasing a goal for their kids of how am I going to prepare this person for life? How are they going to be strong and self-sufficient, provide for themselves? It's all geared around a college application for an Ivy League school.
Yes. As if that degree is your make or break ticket.
That's why they play lacrosse 500 hours a month, or squash, or whatever it is. It's all about college. It's not about a great experience for my kid or my kid enjoying a rounded life. We're all so screwed up with all of this college stuff. It's really perverted everything.
And this is so unfair, because if you have a kid who just studies hard and goes into class and is ready to take the test, they get disadvantaged by this. Mm-hmm. They've got a kid with obviously equal abilities.
Yeah, but has a little money, so they get a doctor's note that says he has this problem. It's diagnosed.
Right. But, we could all get this note very easily and use it to advance our kids' future or get extra time for our kids on their tests. And this is not to disparage those who have genuine disabilities. There are that few. Those numbers in 2014 sound real to me, about 3%. But now it's gone from 3 to 34. Bullshit. Those 31% are fucking faking it to get an academic advantage. And it's a disadvantage for the kids who just work hard and show up and want to color within the lines. They'll play by the rules.
You just have to hope that after college, when Junior with the note went to Cornell and someone else without the note went to Syracuse.
What?
They're going to meet in the workplace one day. And who's going to win?
Right. Oh, see, Doug caught my
eggnog is getting to me.
Well, Doug caught my illness. Sort of. I'll explain what happened. But let me remind me to explain that in a second. I really think when I was reading this, I was like, okay, so then when you apply to college, you don't have to put on there that you got the extra time. The colleges don't get to know.
What?
Yeah,
really?
You're not actually allowed to ask, and you don't have to put it on there. So the colleges have no idea who took the SAT in 9 hours.
So do they have to resubmit the note when they get to college for the tests there?
No. Oh, yeah, of course. Yes, but who cares? By that point, their only goal is to get hired by Goldman Sachs or what have you. Yeah. But I think, like, what if we just played this out and said, there's no time limit. There's no time limit on any tests. Tests are now held, like, whatever. If you want to take your history test at your history class, which starts at 1 p.m., and most students have to finish in 40 or 50 minutes, whoever wants to stay for 2 hours can stay for 2 hours. Like, go ahead, all of you. Mm-hmm. You'll then have to make up the work that you missed in the classes after that.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with that. Like, that's a disadvantage. That's a you thing. But like, what if we just said to all students, if you want the extra time, you can have it.
Yeah.
I actually think this could help solve it, because this would be like a nightmare for the teachers. They wouldn't like it. It would eventually kill itself, right? This system. And what would happen to like the kids with the disabilities wouldn't much like all the other kids having all the extra time either.
Yeah, but they can take 10 more hours if everyone's,
I don't know.
Actually, that would be good.
I'm tempted by it. But so here's what happened with Doug's illness. As you guys know, I was sick last week. I still have a hangover on the voice, but I'm fine. But Doug got it. Obviously, he's my husband, so he got it. But yours was less bad.
Yeah.
And would you like to tell the people how you fought it?
I claim that
I claim
when I first started feeling something, it starts in the throat. So as soon as I felt something, I'm like, oh my God. I had a couple things that were going to be hard to reschedule. I was like, I really would like not to get sick, as I now am. So I cut a lemon in half and I squeezed it into tea, and I took a sauna. I've got one. Thank you, honey.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need the water.
And I did that basically every day for like 5 days.
Took a sauna and squeezed lemon into tea.
Yeah.
And you were taking the Zicam.
The Zicam, yeah, which is like, I don't know, zinc is in there and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Vitamin C maybe.
And you think it minimized your experience?
I did get it, but I feel like I got it about 10% the level you had it. You were really hurting for a while. You lost your voice, and I never had it anywhere near what you had it. But I did have it, so.
You did want to discuss it.
It is amazing. I don't know if this is a sex thing or what, but I do talk about it more when I'm sick and I'm a little bit of a baby and I want to just like be under the blankets and have someone tell me it's going to be all right. And meanwhile, Meg, you've lost your voice. You're taking steroids so you can keep your voice. And I'm like, I feel a little tickle. And you're like, would you shut the fuck up?
I said, we don't have to talk about Typhoid Mary over here, but we definitely should not spend too much time talking about that tickle. Okay. That was very funny.
Yeah.
But I am sorry that I got you sick. Now that you actually have it.
It's all worth it, honey. Watching our Christmas in Connecticut and
yeah, we actually fired that up this week for the first time in a year. It's so fun. I don't know. I love everything about it. I love the way I feel when those Christmas specials are on the TV. Yeah. It's not like a great movie, it's
just kind of weird in a few places.
Odd.
It like gets the atmosphere going.
Yeah, like she's kind of supposed to be married to this guy and cheating on him, but whatever. No. She's not, though. She's not actually married to the guy. I just love the feeling. I love first of all, I love the feeling of old movies, right? It's like a very cool vibe. And second of all, I love the cinematography with a sleigh ride in that movie. I love like all the snow outside.
Yeah.
Reminds me of my childhood up in Syracuse, New York. I miss snow. I miss tons of snow. Like I miss where snow is the default as opposed to green and brown in the winter. Mm-hmm. Well, brown and brown. And I just love this season so much. Like these little twinkling lights in the studio. I'd love to keep these past December, but even I, who am a diehard Christmas fan, can't do it because when Christmas is over, you got to move on.
Come mid-January, you're just ready for warm weather. At that point. It's enough.
You got to clean it up and move on. It only comes once a year, which is why you must treasure it for the next X number of days because it comes and it goes. Yeah. So what are you getting me for Christmas this year?
Not telling.
We don't really do Christmas presents for each other, is the truth.
I mean, lately, it's like write a letter.
Yeah, I love that.
That's an important thing. And then I'll find a little something.
One year, a couple of years ago, it was either my birthday or Mother's Day, I don't remember, but you gave me a beautiful letter, which I always love. That's really what I want every year. And a little dumb pillow.
It wasn't even that nice. It was from CVS.
No, it was like a CVS pillow, like a shamrock. Or something. I'm like, what is this?
Sometimes they acquire some nice merchandise.
It doesn't go anywhere. Like
it was cute. It was a little shamrock. It was like a statement pillow.
But like the house has been decorated by somebody who knows what he's doing. He will not approve.
Yeah.
It was the thought that counts. I really loved it.
Yeah. By the way, so I know you had Elliot Ackerman on earlier this week and you were discussing my lack of fashion, which I cannot deny your observations there on my fashion, but I was bleeding edge on the quarter zip, which apparently is the thing now.
Totally. You were Black Diamond sexy before it was popular.
Totally.
We will find the episode with the fifth column to explain to the audience what that means. Although the diehard fans of the Megyn Kelly show already know about your Black Diamond sexy
and how you're the saboteur.
And I was wrong. Yeah. I was wrong about it all. You were always sexy. It's just a question of
how sexy
and what it was encapsulated in. You got there. Yeah. Got there in the end, babe. Here's to that.
Cheers.
Love you, honey.
Love you, honey.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Don't forget to go and get Doug's new book. It's called The Lost Empire of Emanuel, Nobel. You guys are really going to love it. I promise.